We are live. Hi, I'm Dani Caputo, the Pajama Yogini, and today with us we have Hayley Hughes from the Awakening Collective. Hello, Hayley.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, good. Freezing cold on a Saturday morning, but just done yoga with the online class, so it is always like, oh my goodness, and then once I finish, I'm like, yes. I want to thank past Dani for getting out of bed and doing that. That was good. Well, today we're going to talk about some of your work that you do in the world with your amazing online world, the Awakening Collective. And we thought we might talk a little bit about ancestral healing and ancestral lines and anything else that we decide to chat about. So
that could be anything.
Could be anything.
Anyway.
Tell us about the Awakening Collective and what led you to start that. I guess it's part of your Dharma. Tell us about that and how that came about.
So the Awakening Collective is, so I sort of identify at the moment as an intuitive and healing coach for awakening women who are on their spiritual healing journey. And I help through providing different meditations and healing tools and techniques, and really just helping women to open up to and bring in their own intuition. You know, we're really at a time of bringing that real priestess energy, that divine feminine energy back into humanity. So that's sort of what my mission is more evolving into, like it sort of has progressed and changed. But, you know, I had my spiritual awakening like in that schmovid COVID time, and it was awful. And I was already, like, I was a qualified holistic counselor, like I had a diploma in holistic counseling. I'd already run many meditation classes, women's circles, had my Reiki, like I was a Reiki practitioner. So I was in spirituality. But my awakening was just like, it just like didn't even come close to preparing me for it. And when like being in that space, the people that I found who were talking about it and what was going on the planet and all of those things, nobody was actually really talking about, well, how do you actually get out of bed in the morning, be there for your family and your children, do work, and then, you know, like actually have a day without, you know, for anyone who's watching in your audience who, you know, is sort of on that healing journey, like it can be impossible when you've got things coming up, or even if you're not and you've just got stuff going on in your life, you know, you've got sick loved ones or stuff going on with your own health, or, you know, whatever it is that you're going through. Nobody really tells you how to get up, get through it, and get to the end without constantly dragging just this heavy energy behind you always. And in the beginning, you know, something would come up for healing and I'd be holding on to it and going through it for like months. And it was, just dragging it. So I was like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. And luckily, because I do follow and practice what I preach, I was in meditation, and my guys just said, dude, like, you've got this, like, you know, all the tools, like you've done all the things, just use them every day, listen, follow, trust what's going on. And eventually, you know, I started to really implement and move into that. And just everything just started unfolding easier. I started moving through things a lot easier and a lot quicker. And, you know, just by harnessing in the intuition, really starting to walk the path rather than being spiritual over here and being human over here, you know, making sure that you're really combining the practices in your everyday life, like you do with yoga. You know, you don't get home and you don't just go to yoga and teach yoga. Yoga's part of your life. You get home from work and you go, oh, I'm feeling like this. What does my body need? And you stretch in that way that's going to help you. And so it's just helping women in, like, with meditation and healing to just sort of embody that more in that way. Was that too boring? Sorry.
That's no. It's awesome. As you were saying that, it reminds me of like when people go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll go to church on Sunday, so I've done that part of my life. But it's then, well, yeah, how do you integrate, your godly world or your Christian values or whatever your values are into your everyday week?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the real work.
Honestly, like, and not to be rude, but most people don't.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Yeah. It's just another thing on the to-do list. And meditation, yoga is like that for a lot of people still, it's, well, I'm going to go do it over here in class and take those principles of meditation, the principles of yoga, the principles of breath work, whatever it is that you're doing in that space. But then are you using that when something difficult comes up through your day, when you start feeling like poop, when you start getting anxiety, when something triggers you or comes up that you're like, how am I going to solve this problem? Do you take those practices?
Yeah.
Or do you
so important.
Yeah. So
I love that. That's so important. Yeah, in the everyday. Because let's face it, that's where the major part of our life is, in the everyday, in the relationships, in the raising children, looking after parents, navigating work, finances, health, like that's the everyday. And that's where we need the tools, isn't it, to move through those things.
Yeah.
I think to ask. Sorry. Yeah, you go.
I think it comes down to having those tools and having confidence. And the more tools that you have, so, like if you practice yoga, if you practice meditation, if you practice breath work or tapping, whatever it is that you love doing. I forgot what I was going to say now that I've done that. Never mind, moving on. I forgot where I was going with that. Yes, having those tools brings you more confidence to actually go through something. So rather than, if you're somebody who gets a lot of anxiety, if you've got the tools and you're confident that you know how to use them because you've been practicing them all the time, when you get anxiety, you're not going, oh my God, I'm getting anxiety. What do I do? Where do I go? You go, okay, I'm getting anxiety. Stop, become present, breathe, whatever techniques it is that you do. So yeah, I think tools and having those tools and learning practical tools, it just also brings that confidence of, I know how to move through my day when I get anxious, when I get confronted with something I don't like, when something goes, can I swear?
Yeah.
When something goes tits up or whatever, you've got what you need you have that confidence because you go, well, I know I can do this. I know I can do that. I know I can follow this procedure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it brings that power back to you too. And I think that's really important, is those tools bring you personal power instead of going, who can I get to fix this for me? And
and that's the default switch that we've been taught, that we need to access something outside of ourselves or somebody. And I'm not saying that we don't always, like we do often need somebody to support us, guide us in specific areas. But even like I heard this wonderful reading this audio book at the moment, or listening to this audio book at the moment, but the healing is with the patient. Like even when you go to the doctor, or even if you go to a surgeon and they, remove something or they do that part, the healing part is still the patient. It's still your body that's, joining those layers of skin back together and doing all of that. And it just really reminded me that's so true, because when we go and we outsource our power to somebody else and say, what is it that I need to do? We get the information, but then it's still us who applies that. So it's taking your trust back into your own awareness and intuition, and having those tools, and saying, well, what is it that I can do right here, right now, and creating a life that I want to create, and being in a state that I want to be in living my life on the everyday. Of course, you're going to have those moments where you have, I guess, acute, times of stress and anxiety and those things, but the natural health model is working on that preventative and keeping everything a little bit more stable and a little bit more balanced as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's beautiful. Like, I love that, because it's still, like you say, even if you have surgery, it's still your body and the way that you will help yourself to come out of that surgery, help your body to heal, your immune system to get better, or whatever it is, that's still on you.
Yeah.
And with society's become very pointy-fingered. Like, this is happening to me. Who do I blame first? My husband, my kids, the bank, my parents, the government.
Yeah.
Really, the control that they have is only because of your attachment.
Yeah. The
Like,
way
do you
you're
know
going
what
to interpret that. Yeah.
You can still step back and go, okay, but then how do I do this for myself? How do I fix this for myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if, for someone who's never heard the term awakening, or is like, have I had that? Have I been through that? How would you describe to somebody who's new to this space? Like, how does somebody know that they've been through a spiritual, or they're going through it? How would you, from the clients that you work with, what sorts of things do you see?
Yeah, most of the people who come to me know they are, because they've hit that real dark night of the soul. And so that dark night of the soul is where something's happened or shifted in you. Sometimes it happens through something like COVID. That's like a big, massive thing that's, happened to all of us. Or it might be that you're going through a divorce. Maybe you've lost a loved one that's really close. Maybe you're dealing with an illness that just shoves you into this space where, like, just this real, who am I? What's the point? Why? Like, there has to be more to what's going on here. You know what I mean? It kind of shoves you into more of an I can't never say that word. Thinking.
Existential. Existential.
With our big words. Thinking. And so, and beliefs start crumbling down. So let's take, and sorry to trigger anyone or to make anyone upset, but just let's say, taking the example of divorce, everything that you'd sort of had your life built upon within this relationship and, family starts crumbling down, and it comes back to, and especially I think, and again, not to be sexist, but especially as a woman, a lot of the women are the caretakers and, don't have the finances behind them because they've been, either only working part-time or whatever. So just all of these things you start thinking about, well, my goodness, how am I going to look after myself? How am I going to look after my kids? What does this mean for me? What does this mean for my life? And all, like, just everything kind of like falls away and falls apart, and it stirs up all those feelings of who am I and what do I want in my life. And so, and like I said, a lot of women who come to me are in that space, like that real dark night of the soul, and they know that they're in like sort of an awakening part. That can start to happen over time too, when we hit those sort of, I'm going to talk predominantly about women because that's who I work with, but when we hit those stages of womanhood, of, stepping into mother, everything changes a lot when you become a mother, or even just step into that mother energy. It doesn't mean that you have to have children, but it's that mother energy of, well, I'm a bit wiser now. I know more, I've experienced more, and I can therefore pass more wisdom on to the people around me. But that triggers a thing of, okay, well, in this phase of my life now, what is it that I want? What is it that I'm doing? And you can start looking into, why do I believe that? Why do I behave that way? Why do I make those choices? So it's kind of those spaces where you start questioning yourself more and questioning what you want more. I think that's the way it happens in a more subtle way. And even like now, I'm stepping into Queen, like 47, pretty perimenopausal right now. And so that's stepping into that Queen energy. And I found myself doing that again now, like, of where I'm headed. And it just triggers all this new layer of women in society, which I never thought about before. But now getting to this age, it was always like old people like getting on one, But you do start realizing how society and your own views from your own leading into ancestral stuff and like past life stuff with past life stuff with women in society and of our age, where we are no longer really in, childbearing years, and how redundant you start to feel, even if that's not necessarily the way your world is, but it's those things that start coming up that are tied to ancestry, that are tied to past lives. And that's why this stuff comes up, right? So that we can sort of heal it and move through it. And it can either happen in that real dark night of the soul, things are crumbling way, or that phase of life where you just start asking more questions, being more curious about who you are, what you want from your life, and all that sort of thing. That's my view on it anyway.
Yeah, cool. Mine too. And I feel like I've maybe been through a couple of awakenings in different ways, or slow unfoldings, and I definitely think motherhood, for sure, for me would have been one. My dad leaving, like when I was in my late 20s, and leaving our family and completely cutting us out. Like that was just a massive, huge awakening, and taking like a whole, he's not an archetype, he's a real person, but taking that whole person out of a family unit and then seeing how that family unit functions without that person has been massive. And also the whole COVID type time, and the journey that we've been through since, and what we're heading into now, definitely some I feel like for me, I couldn't put my finger on a specific if you asked me, but I feel like I feel like it's constant, Hayley.
Yeah. Well, it has certainly been since COVID. It's been quite the unraveling. But yeah, and that's the thing. And I think, we always have sort of, and some people describe them as shamanic. You know what I mean? Shaman, but with an ick on the end. Ego deaths that we go through as certain things come up for us. And I think a lot of the time it just starts with that, what in God's name am I doing right now? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if there's something going on in finances, or you're just like waking up every morning going, oh, it's like, and we all of a sudden just have that thing that comes through to us like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't working. Like, I think it's like that natural questioning comes in. But then people don't know what to do with it then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who that natural questioning comes up for, but it's like, but this is life.
Yeah.
And so they keep going on what they're doing.
So you would be so helpful for people who are in families that no one's doing the questioning, and they're like, is anyone saying what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's all about the black sheep. And which leads nicely into the ancestral thing, because most of, if you are watching this, listening, you feel like you're the black sheep in the family, it's because you are more than likely the one that was picked to change the ancestral line. So, it's why you're the one who's going, you probably grow up going, I don't have that same belief around what finances should be or what marriage should look like. And do you know what I mean? Like, you don't, like, anytime your family says anything, you go, I kind of don't really agree with that, but I'm going to because they're my family, but I don't actually believe that inside. And so, so you're already different and thinking differently through your teen years, acting differently, have a whole different view on the world right from back here than your family. And that's more than likely, if that's you, that it's because you are breaking that ancestral patterning in some way.
Yeah.
That you're the one that's going to sort of take things in a different direction.
And then also have that ongoing ripple effect that has through those people that are in your families, whether you, like, we don't have control over how things are received, but I always say, like in yoga, when you come to yoga, you don't only just do yourself a service, you do your family and your community a service, because you are literally or in my class, you're literally letting go of the things that you're storing in your body that no longer serve you, and you're bringing lightness into your body, and then you're going out into the world like reset, refreshed, and like ready to share that energy with, you know, people on the bus and your co-workers and your partner and your, so when we make those changes within us, they do ripple out into the lives of other people, and obviously the people who are closest to us in our families as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's all energy, and the energy that you bring into yourself, that energy does ripple out into everything you do, everything you touch, and not just humans, like animals and plants and the earth.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I know that at this point in the world, things are absolutely crazy and people get very bogged down in the fear and there's nothing we can do. But if you want to do something to help, then sit in stillness, like you just said, or do some yoga to get rid of your crap out of your body, harness in love and joy and just beautiful vibes, send them out into the ley lines and into the earth, use it to touch the people around you. That is what you can do right now. Yes, you can't go stop a war. You can't go, stop people from being really mean to each other. You can't interfere in politics or whatever it is, but you can be in your own sovereignty of harnessing in divine feminine energy and flow and love and compassion. That is going to do, and I don't think, well, we don't, because we don't learn about it enough. People don't understand the impact that has. Like, it has a huge, profound impact. That energy. It really does. And because we don't learn about it enough, we don't allow ourselves to tap into and feel it enough. It's not something that we're taught. It's not something that we tap into. We don't understand the immense like healing that it brings to everything that's going on in the world, But sorry, I was just going to say, what's going on in the world actually is because people are doing more of that. So it's bringing up all of the crap that we need to look at, because the more crap we can see on the outside playing out in that way, the more we go, how can we harness in more love? So then we start harnessing in more love, we start getting it out. And so then even more of a shit show will happen, because it's reflecting to us what needs to be healed in us and how much love we need to bring back to self. If that makes sense.
Oh, I love that, Hayley. It's the what is it? The polarity. It's the polarity of what we, if we go into that fear, it's actually the opposite of what's happening. All of that fear and that stuff that's bubbling up, and people are going into these like fear tunnels of, oh my God, like what's going to happen, and becoming almost, I'm not say unuseful, but when you go into that state, you can't function. It's that, fight or flight, and you can't do anything about it. And it's in those places that, I know that, look, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've been down the tunnels and dragged myself back out. We're not saying that, that we're all enlightened and, sitting on the mountaintop every single minute of the day and praying for humanity. And, but what we are saying is that from a still point of view, you actually hold the light for yourself and for others. And you can feel it. Like, I don't know if you've ever had interactions with people who are in that space, and when you're not, it doesn't fill you with fear. It fills you with more love to say, you're so okay. Like, I got you. Like, stand still. It's okay. Like, and let that fear come up and be transformed by the earth, by your practice, by your breath, acknowledging it, and then allowing it to be transformed into something else is transformational.
That's right. It's about allowing yourself to be the pillar.
Yes.
Be the pillar for everyone else. And I've talked about this before, like in my groups and in stuff that I've done. But even when, I mean, last year, 2024, there was a lot of healing going on, and every planetary alignment, every moon, every eclipse just brought up so much inside people. And when you don't know that that's what's happening, it's so easy to just be like, why am I like, you don't know why you're feeling like that, because you're not aware of how eclipses and moon cycles and things feel within you. But the great thing is that, because there were people in my community that were feeling like bad because nothing was coming up for them. And so we'd go through an eclipse or we'd go through a planetary alignment where the whole social media was like, are you feeling the energy? I've been in bed all day. Like that kind of thing. And people who weren't feeling that way, and well, I'm fine, and they thought they weren't healing properly, that they weren't doing it. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, no,
Yeah.
you're being a killer.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, we all swap from when there's stuff coming up. So at the moment, there's so much stuff, like again now, happening with wars and bombs and whatever, and nuclear this and blah, blah, blah. I don't really pay attention. But, you know, there's so much fear going on in that. But then there'll be the people who are detached from it, who can bring in the light, who are holding that space for the people in fear.
Yeah.
Weeks from now, something else might change, and I might be swept up in something and going to fear. But if you're not, I know you're holding that pillar of light for me.
I see you. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it like we kind of move like that with each other as we go. But the more people we can get on the pillar side, then the further we're going to come quicker. And
that reminds me of this beautiful phrase I heard Matt Kahn. I don't know. Do you know Matt Kahn? Him and his wife, they have a YouTube channel, but he said, he was explaining about that and the holding of light and those people, the light workers on Earth. And he said, won't it be wonderful when the last person who says a prayer tips the scale and that there's more people on that side? So won't that be just amazing when you realize that you were that person, or that you were that group of people that we tip the scales?
And I think that's what drives me in bringing more divine feminine energy down and helping people to tap into it, because you could be that last person. I could help activate that last person, or that person could help activate, like, you know what I mean, because of that ripple. But like, that person could be the person who activates the last person. You know, their kid could be the last person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The more we keep
those waves of influence and love, and you never know where it's going to end up.
That's exactly right. Which is lovely and beautiful.
So let's talk about ancestry. And I mentioned last week a little bit in my private group about the tests that I did it so badly because I'm not a details person, about the tests that they've done.
You called me. Funny.
There was a test that they did with rats, and how the rats ate strawberries, and when they ate the strawberries, they got like an electric shock. And then 2 generations down, the babies or the grandchildren of those original rats will not go anywhere near strawberries because of the cellular memory from their grandparents' experiences. So we know from those tests that cellular memory is passed down, and I think that's just sort of starting to open up. Some people I think, obviously we get it very clearly from the patterns and from the programming that we get from our parents and what's happening in our home, and that's passed down. We can kind of probably join some of the dots to our grandparents because we may have or may not been able to see that, but it goes back further and further and further. And I think this sort of study is starting to open up and people are starting to understand more about that, probably in cultures that believe in past lives, and have, you know, it's ancient, and like, you know, the Western world, like, oh my God, we just discovered this, and you know, oh my God, they must just be like, oh.
Oh, it just amazes me that like the spiritual community and spiritual leaders and, you know, gurus or whatever have been talking about this stuff for centuries. But the way we are as humans, or because this man in a lab coat hasn't like written it on a piece of paper in his little report yet, we won't believe it. And it just, I'm like, come on, people, like, come on. And now all of a sudden he's like some amazing hero because he's figured out that there's, it's like, I could have told you that when I was like 11. Like, you know what I mean?
I was in touch with my cellular memory at 11, dude.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's great because it does make it more mainstream. So it will, you know, the people who are way away from woo-woo are going to go, oh, you know, that's interesting. But, you know, so it does help start tipping the scale. So I understand why it's needed. But at the same time, it's just like, oh, yeah. But, yeah, it's so fascinating, isn't it? And
it is.
Yeah, it just is. That, I mean, but we've got, I mean, yeah, we're talking ancestry, but, I mean, we've got cellular memory from water within us.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Tell us about that.
I don't know a lot about it. Like you, I don't read a lot of reports. But, you know, water holds so much of information of the history of the earth, the history of and the wisdom of tribes and, you know, tens of thousands of years and hundreds of thousands of years of evolution on the planet, and we drink that water. You know, that water is within us. We're made apparently predominantly of water, and well, I mean, I know we are, but like, yeah, that, and so we have all of that cellular memory. But yeah, in terms of ancestry, it's really quite tricky, and I think it's so, what I've learned on my journey of doing ancestral stuff, it's tricky, it's hard to navigate. For me, it's been this way, and it's very layered and complicated, but at the same time, not at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, I find that with spiritual stuff, it's like so intricate and energetically entwined, yet so simple at the same time. But I've found it hard with ancestral stuff in my family because I don't know. Like, my nan passed away when I was about 7. I never knew my granddad. I didn't know any aunties or uncles from that generation. Like obviously my mum and dad's brothers and sisters, yes, but anyone past that, no idea. And so it is very hard to go, well, I can see that pattern in me and I can see that pattern in my mum, but I don't know whether my nan was like that. I don't know whether it started with my mum. Was my nan like that? And God, no. I mean, her mum passed away, like my great nan passed away when my nan was 8. So, but there's a lot of anger and frustration, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of having to, like, you have to put up a front, which is a very English thing anyway. Like, we're English. I was born in England. So, like, there's a lot of that ancestral stuff that all ties and comes down the line, which I've having to be really, like, I mean, you know, because we've talked in the groups that we do together with our business coach around, you know, having to put on a performance or show up in a certain way or whatever. And that's very ancestral for me. But yeah, it certainly does come in that way, but also the emotion, because, you know, your mother, that mother line, you know, she's the one that creates you. Everything that you are is from her, the energy, the tissue, you know, and so all of her cellular memory, including her anger, her frustration, and all of those form into you as you are born. That's why it's the mother line that's usually the most impactful on a human being, and you'll find that most of the trauma and the things that you're uncoupling and untethering from are from that mother line, because, you know, you're taking all of that on. And like, I can see, like, my nan, sorry, I'm just sharing just so that, like, my stuff, so that hopefully people can sort of see where they put the dots together in their own family. you know, when my granddad passed away, and mum just talked about this. It's funny actually that this has all come up this week, the same as this. My mum was talking about it the other day, because when my granddad passed away, he had lung cancer and he'd started smoking during the war, because they just gave cigarettes out to everybody to calm them down. And when he passed away, she got so angry and so resentful, and she was just like, she'd never smoked or anything. And my uncle offered her a cigarette and said, have one of these, it'll calm you down. And she goes, well, I might as well, because if he's going to leave, I might as well not be here, like, you know, like swearing and carrying on about him being so selfish, and I might as well kill myself too. And then she just, like, that anger and that resentment and that hurt and that grief just cemented within her body, to the point where by the time she was 60, she was in a wheelchair with crippling arthritis, because it was all, you know. But then that was passed down to my mum. Like that, you know, that thing. And then, yeah, and then it gets passed down even more. But that would have been passed down probably from something that happened with her mum. But like, just anger and resentment is our go-to, like my family's go-to emotions for anything that happens. And so, you know, if you want to look into ancestral healing, or if you're going, oh, I wonder where this is in my life, what do you notice are your family's go-to emotions? Like I said, ours is anger and frustration. Like when anything ever happens. Victimhood is a lovely one that we love to fall into constantly. My man, it's not fair. Like we do that a lot. And so looking at those sort of like identities and emotions and ways of being that will have been passed down through that line. But it can be tricky if you don't know a lot about your family too, which I don't. And when I look into things that I'm healing and working through, and I tap into it within my family, it's very, very distorted. And we, again, and I'm not, you know, I don't mean to be racial profiling, is that what you call it? But, you know, English people don't talk about their stuff. Everything gets going behind closed doors. You don't show your emotions outside. You don't air the laundry, you know, you don't whatever. But I think what happens in that is nobody actually knows the actual truth about anything. And any time that my mum's talked about her family and the way her childhood was, and it's also la-di-da, and every time she said it, I was like, my BS meter was just like, you know. Youngest of 6. She was the baby, like her oldest brother, like my uncle's 14 years older than her.
Right.
So I think she probably got protected a little bit, or didn't kind of quite know what was happening or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you know, is there any places, like for those of you who want to go into it, are there any places in stories that your family tell or anything that goes on where your BS meter starts going, that doesn't feel right, because that's a distortion in the field of what's being held. So just trying to think of ways for people to start, like, okay, if I want to look down this line, how, like, what kind of things can I look at? So seeing where your BS meter's off, seeing what emotional go-tos happen through the family, and seeing what was the other one I said? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I'm not sure.
So seeing where the emotional things are, seeing what identities you fall into, whether it's victimhood or blame, or, you know, shaming people, or, you know, that will help you to sort of go, okay, well, that's what's in our line. But it's so fascinating, like just energetically, physically, the things that are passed down and through you. And again, it's really hard to notice because it's your truth.
Yeah.
You know, and it can be very hard to see your truth. And like, even like I said before, stepping into this part of my life where I'm now starting to go, hang on a minute, like, you know, men, when they get to this stage, they're like my age, it's like they get more prestige, you know. They become they're filled with more wisdom with their distinguished grey hair. And so they get promoted again, or they're CEOs, or they're, you know, but as a woman, oh, you're done. You're a bit old to get a job now. Oh, you're that age. We don't really want to hire you now. Like, it's amazing, like the difference. And that's the sort of thing that I'm starting to notice. But I wouldn't have noticed that a year ago. Like it just would have been, yeah, well, it's true. We do.
It's like
They
the
do.
George Clooney of the world.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the things like we don't actually see because they're so truth to us.
Yeah.
You
They're in the
know?
unconscious, the subconscious.
So and it's so far back there. Like it's not until little tiny sparks of things start going, oh, hang on a minute. Oh, but yeah, my mum does that. My mum says that. That's my mum's belief. Or,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, where did she get that from? You know, and
then we get into relationship with someone else and they're like, what's that?
yes,
And then
exactly.
you're like, well, look at your stuff. Like, what's all of that?
Yeah, and everything starts mirroring and clashing and triggering and
yeah. Interesting. I've been using these cards, Secrets of the Ancestors, Abiola Abrahams.
Beautiful.
And
channel.
it was just you and me here, Hale. So what if should we choose a card for your mum's line? What if we choose a card for your mum and one for your grandma and see what that influence is?
Cool.
Should we do that?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's been really interesting. My mum's just gotten back. My mum used to be really into this stuff. Like she's the most amazing past life regression therapist, but life happened and she just completely cut herself off from it and let it go. Yeah. And she's only just literally in the last 2 months gone back to circle, and it's just opened like healing, like now that she's looking at stuff. And funnily enough, this week she came to me. We had this conversation literally on Thursday. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, because she was like, I've been thinking about my childhood and things have been coming up. She goes, I think I've blocked a lot of stuff out. And I was like, oh, really? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think now because she's tapping back into that, she's starting to feel the distortion now. As well over the way that she viewed her upbringing and her mum and her parents and her life and her family life. Yeah. So it's been interesting to hear her talk about that this week.
And being in that perception of through your child eyes as well. You see things differently. And it's then sometimes you have an experience as an adult that like shifts that real quick and you're like, oh, that's what that was. That's what that person's intention was. Because when you're a little person too, you don't have that shielding on your heart. You don't have that experience to know that not all people are walking in the world with the bestest intentions. You get told to be careful, or you get, but you don't have adult filters on things. So I think that as you grow old, like for me, I've definitely had some aha moments when things have dropped in and I've gone, oh, that makes sense. Nobody could explain that to me. Nobody talked me through that situation or, could do that for me. Yeah. I was just driving today in the car and I was thinking about, I don't know if you're like this, but just weird things just drop in, like a memory dropped back. I don't know whether it was the weather or the light or what it was, but I just had this memory of when I was a little girl, I would beg my dad to spend time with me. And I love my dad, I really do. But he had his own issues of losing a parent when he was very young. So he was in cared by different people. And so he had quite a traumatic childhood. And my dad loved me and he was affectionate and all those things. But I wanted time with my dad and I would beg him for time. And I remember I would say every Sunday morning, my dad would go for a run. And I was like, please let me come running with you. And he was like, no, you can't come. You're too, like, I was so little too. Like, he literally wouldn't have been able to run. I didn't understand that at the time, but I just wanted to spend time with him. He worked a lot of hours and I was just desperate to spend time with him. And it hurt me so much as a little person that he wouldn't do that. And then I was having this memory of, in my family, I really want someone to go walking with me. Nobody will go walking with me. And I just felt this like, ouch. And then I went, that is what is triggering that old wound of I don't want to be with you or I don't want to spend time with you is just replaying in my adult life. And that's not even me. That's not even really, I mean, that's an interaction with my dad. But I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes these little things that we unravel at the weirdest times, and the weirdest, it might seem weird, but I was just driving, it must be the right time, we're going to talk about this today, but you just never know when those little unlockings kind of happen and drop in.
Yeah. And it's not always big and dramatic. It is always just that little seed where you go, like, I think it was Oprah that started the aha movement, didn't she?
Did she?
Yeah,
great. I just heard it, Oprah.
That just makes you go, oh, I get it. But the great thing is where you are now, you can go, well, it's not that they don't want to walk with me and don't want to spend time with me. It's because they hate walking. Like, you can sort of put that in there. Like, that's just my little child going, oh,
Why won't you come with me?
Yeah. Why won't you come with me? And if they came with you, they'd probably whinge the whole way and you'd be like, oh my God, I'm never coming walking with you again.
You obviously know my family? Yeah.
I have one. I know how it
goes. All right. So card for you. First one is Mother of Air, which is boundaries. Oh my goodness, check out my tech skills. Boundaries. So this is the card for your mum. So one of your biggest unravelings with your mum's line is drawing boundaries about where you will and will not say yes, no, that doesn't feel right for me. That was difficult for her. She was not allowed to draw boundaries. And so that has been a challenge for you. Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think with my mum, she's a people pleaser. And if you're a people pleaser, you have no boundaries because you will do whatever it takes.
Yep.
To make sure that you feel that acceptance and love and appreciation from whoever it is that you're doing it for.
Yeah. All right. And then the grandmother card. Mother God. Hang on. Miracles.
She's cool.
Yeah, she's got feathers.
She's got it all.
She's got it all. Miracles in motion. So this would be really interesting. It feels like your grandmother's energy was quite, I don't know, I reckon she was a bit of a wild one in her I'm going to say, I'm talking like an oldie, in her heyday. Like in her heyday,
she probably was
a wild spirit to her.
Yeah.
And life literally cemented her. Miracles in motion. So she may also be where you get a lot of your clairvoyant intuition from as well, from that line.
Yeah, one of the things that has come up through doing ancestral work is that, my mum's family, that line is very, very clairvoyant, very, very witchy. And I've got cousins on her side of the family who see spirit and talk to spirit, like in quite a few different places and pockets. And that is one thing that has come through that I've healed as, I'm not sure there's more layers, but healed down the line, is that they weren't able to be spiritual. So they were like, my great nana who passed away, like I said, when she was quite young, she was 28. My nana was only 8. She was very spiritual, but obviously back in those days, early 1900, I think she was born in 1901 or something. Well, must have been born in 1900. She wasn't allowed to be clairvoyant, psychic. She wasn't allowed to step into who she was. She had to be in her place.
Yeah.
And that same thing happened like with my nan. That same thing happened with my mum. She nearly got there with her spirituality, but then she used my dad's illness as an excuse, I think, rather than leaning into it and going, well, I can help him with Reiki. I can help him with, which I know you can't, because you go into fear, you hit fight or flight, all of those things. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm the one to stop that for everyone. Like, so part of my ancestral healing and my job as the black sheep and the healer of my ancestry in that line is to step out and be very openly psychic, very openly clairvoyant, very open as a healer.
Yeah.
Because they weren't able to. And so they weren't able to actually fully stand in who they were. A, because of being psychic. 2, because they were a woman. So they had to be at home doing the things with the kids. Like, that was a very closed thing too, like in that line. That
And I think, well, my mum's in her late 70s, and I feel like her generation fought a lot for equal rights, and, you know, the 60s, the 70s, like they were big times of rebellion. And I see now, probably in my children, a much more balanced approach to gender roles. And I mean, it's still there. Look, there's so much to be unpacked, but in terms of what you can do in the world, and even when I walk around my streets here, and usually around the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time, I see the dads out with the prams. I mean, 10 years ago, you didn't see that. There were no dads.
I was actually thinking about this a couple of weeks ago. I went to pick up my daughter from school, and I was standing at the gate. I was literally the only mum there. It was all dads down the fence. I was the only mum standing next to that, in that bit of gate. Yeah.
Wow.
My dad never would have picked us up from school.
No.
He didn't even know when we went to school, I don't think.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so true.
It's true, isn't it, back then?
Yeah. Very different. Very different. Yeah.
And it is
the
balancing.
world is changing.
Yeah, it is. And I think with that, though, as long as we're remembering that we're balancing, that we're not getting into the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Because I think what a lot of people don't understand is that we've already done thousands of years of a complete matriarchy, where women were the ones who fought, they were the ones who did all the things. Now it's been a complete time of patriarchy, so that karma's gone around, and now we're bringing it into balance. So it's not about one being better or higher or more than the other. It's about, but that comes from us also balancing that within.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so fun about really harnessing in divine feminine, so that because most women are constantly living in divine masculine. So
and that's
because they're a woman that they're divine feminine, but that's not how, like, it's how, like I was saying before, how you are being. So if you're waking up in the morning and you're running around and you're scheduled to the hilt, and you're constantly here, there, and everywhere, you're not, your energy's not in receivership, you're not in flow, you're not, if it's all just like that all the time and you're stressed out and anxious, that's just being because you're like overly divine masculine. Like, there needs to be time in your life for flow, for rest, for nurture. And the worst thing for women, the worst thing that not the worst thing, but the thing that we just are really not good at doing, because we're not in that divine feminine, is receivership. Asking for help, asking for things to come in, you know, and
allowing someone to create space for you, to care for you, or for you to do that for yourself.
Yeah, because that comes from you doing that and giving that to yourself. So as within, so without. If we want balanced masculine and feminine with what we're seeing in the world around us, We need to make sure that we're getting that. I mean, you're not going to be all completely balanced all the time. We're going to have days or weeks where we're a little bit busier and there's a little bit more going on, but you can still be in that action and be giving yourself grace and nurture and surrender and being open to receivership as well.
Yeah.
At the
And I
same
think
time.
The feminine flow, and not that I was even had words for this, like when I was a teenager, I just have this very memorable experience at, I don't know, maybe year 9 PE, and somebody has said to the female teacher, like, I can't do sport today because I've got my period. And the teacher answering like, girls can do anything, pick up the ball and go, you know. And so there was this, well, we're going to open it up and we're going to openly talk about how girls have periods, but you're going to push through. And because you have all these opportunities available to you, you're not going to stop. And that was sort of like my teenage experience was, you push through. Yes, you're a woman. Yes, you have all of those things and you can do whatever you want in this world, but you're going to have to push through. And
that's just again, isn't it?
Yes. You can do what you want.
Toxic in a way.
Yeah. And it's only been, the last, few years that I have started to unravel that. And I talk a lot, in my class, and the opportunities that I'm trying to create for women is that rest is a revolution. Like my mum literally cannot sit still. I don't know, you will all have a grandma or mum. Yes. It's like, you're like, Mum, sit down. She's like, oh no, I feel, and she can say it, I feel guilty about sitting. Feel useless, like you don't have anything to give the world if you can't like clean up the dishes and keep your house tidy and feel like you have value, because that's what's been programmed in. But I think that that is changing, and learning to have those periods of rest and learning to harness that for the power of bringing in that rested state to be able to do what it is that you want in the world, because I was just on this like push, dragging my ass for 70% of it, and then the 30% that I had left, I was getting some stuff done. But really, if I had have been taught or learnt when to rest, I would have been a lot kinder on my body, on my mind, on my soul. Right, this is my resting time. Right, this is my go time. Right, this is my time to create and to think and to plan. And this is my time to do. I mean, no one was talking about that, And I think that, that the programs and the things probably that we both do is inviting people to start listening to that inner wisdom, listening to the cycles that we are a part of within our universe, within our world, and also within inside of us. As within is without, and that's not correct. So is there anything else? Where can people find you, Hayley, if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so on Instagram at Hayley_Hughes224, or you'd probably put in the Awakening Collective and it'd come up, I suppose. Or you can go to hayleyhughes.com.au. Yeah, I've got a private Facebook group that you can come join if you like, and we talk about this kind of stuff. I also do, like free little card readings and, all the things, do some little meditations in there. So, yeah, that's where
fantastic. I am. And we'll be working together in a couple of weeks at Slow Soul Sunday. So if you feel called and you loved our chat today, please come along to that. You're watching the replay. We hope to see you soon. Thank you so much, Hayley. It's always just a pleasure.
And thank you for the card readings too for my mum and and thank you for me. I love chatting to you. I'm not going to gush on here.
Yeah. No,
I love you.
Love you guts.
You too. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me. All
Welcome.
right.
Bye.
Bye, love.